As we know, the new chapter of Poppy Playtime is coming out very soon, and I decided to go down the Poppy Playtime rabbit hole of what this story was actually about, and the rabbit hole goes deep. Mascot horror has really taken off since the debut of Five Nights at Freddy's. Bright, colorful characters that are friendly towards kids, but usually with a sinister intent within. And the internet became obsessed with this genre, creating multiple spin-offs and fan games left and right, and then one day, by Mob Entertainment, we got Poppy Playtime. Today we're going to be going over the full story, and if this video does well, I'll break down the VHS tapes that they recently released as well. They're pretty interesting. And remember, liking helps this video grow, and sharing also does as well. Comment your thoughts of what your favorite character is, and hey, let's begin. We begin with a very vintage and strangely nostalgic commercial, and we're introduced to a character named Elliot Ludwig. He is the founder of the Playtime Co. Ludwig introduces us to a glass doll named Poppy. He describes it as, "This is the first intellectual doll within the world, a product beyond its time." You need to keep in mind that around this time is the same period as the 1950s, so this isn't your everyday AI. As the commercial continued, it would promote Poppy asking for help regarding shining her shoes or brushing her hair. However, there's a moment where Poppy likes to state that she's a real girl, just like you. The commercial ends with a doll factory, very reminiscent of the Child Play 2 movie. We see in the background there's hundreds of dolls being manufacturing, with the narrator overlapping his voice explaining how these factory toys are only for $2.99 per person, cheaper than a gallon of gas. The commercial then distorts, and we see a few interesting things here. First off, a large red flower painted on the wall that follows up with a yellow VHS tape with a cryptic letter that explains, "Everyone thinks the staff disappeared 10 years ago. We're still here, find the flower." Following that cryptic letter, we step inside the Playtime factory. A decision that will haunt our every step as we go further within this venture, as we literally begin to step deeper into hell. The lobby appears abandoned. Everything is covered in dust and darkness around every corner, yet, like a random gas station, the lights appear to be on and everything seems to be powered on at night. We even see as the colors on the wall begin fading and the paintings of Huggy, which is one of the characters that we will meet later, feels almost uncanny. And as we continue to go forward within this as we continue to go further in the lobby, we can almost feel a sense of dread, almost as if something or someone is watching us. On the desk, we'll find another VHS tape. This VHS tape featuring a character named Leith Pierre, the head of innovation. The tape goes on about how the factory has advanced security measures, motion sensors, emergency alarms, and alludes to something worse. Now, you're probably wondering the same thing I was wondering when I was playing around this time. What does a toy factory have to hide in order to need such an advanced security? Our main protagonist ignores the warning and proceeds further, obtaining the Grab Pack, a device only meant for employees for assisting with extendable hands. However, the one we acquire only came with one hand. The Blue Hand. The Blue Hand is a game mechanic that allows you to interact with doors and electrical circuits. This let us proceed further into the factory, straight into the main lobby, and that's where we meet the one and only Huggy Wuggy. In the center, you are greeted by a massive Huggy Wuggy statue, or at least what it seems like at first. He's a towering blue furry Muppet monster with a similar design to the Cookie Monster, actually, in my opinion. We try to open the door near him, but the power shuts off, so we go around and turn on the power, and then suddenly, Huggy has a key in his hand. That key wasn't there before, at least last time I checked. But we take the key, we go in the power room, do a puzzle, and then we turn it back on, and then boom, next thing you know, we go straight into the next area. But while we're leaving to that next area, we notice the Huggy Wuggy statue is gone. Here, everything begins to unravel as the once abandoned factory springs to life as we venture deeper within the factory, straight into the conveyor belt rooms. We find another VHS tape speaking about Stella Graber. She talks about her love for toys and also mentions human bodies can't stay young forever. After that, we acquire the red hand and allows us to move over to opening the conveyor belt so we can proceed into the next room. In this room, we come across a poster. Now, this poster gives us a little bit of foreshadowing that Playtime Co. had interested in regarding foster care. It's a small detail that'll come back later in the story. We then create a toy, have it scanned, and then we try to walk into another hallway, going deeper, but then suddenly we are stopped by the towering Huggy Wuggy. Dart into the vents, Huggy chases us from behind, creating a very memorable chase scene if this is your first time playing this game. You appear to be lost in a vent-like labyrinth, with writings on the walls and just constant stomps of Huggy growing closer and closer by the second as he's behind you, screaming, hungry, angry. aggressively. This labyrinth has many twists and many dead ends, making it basically that one wrong turn and you're dead. It's over. We break free from the vent and we walk into a catwalk, and with nowhere to go, we pull down a large container on top of that catwalk, which caused it to collapse. We land safely. However, Huggy ends up falling to the abyss, hitting his head on a pole as he fades into the darkness. However, as he falls, when he hit his head on the pole, you would notice that there is blood all over that pole. It makes you wonder, why does a toy have blood? We then find another VHS tape called Experiment 1006. The prototype. This is where we get our SCP storytelling. During the recording, we hear muffled yelling and banging as if there is a lot of commotion going on in the background. Something terrible has happened, and the scientist is speaking frantically about an event that has recently transpired and how the prototype was behind it all. It then abruptly ends after that, and we just move on to the giant flower that we see in the commercial, painted on the wall as we ventured into a new section of the factory, unknown what's on the other side. It is surrounded by blood-covered toys hung by their necks, and inside we find a doll-like corridor leading us straight into a red room. Once we enter, we find a glass case, and inside we find Poppy. The lights go out, and we hear... Ah, she does. Ooh, spooky. Scary doll.
You opened my case.
Why you sound so creepy? You opened my case. And then the chapter ends. Just like chapter 1, we're introduced to another toy via commercial. This toy is known as Mommy Longlegs. A pink spider with highly stretchable limbs. Similar to like those toys you see nowadays where you can like stretch their bodies. It's pretty much the same premise. The commercial shows children playing with her and singing the tune Itsy Bitsy Spider, which is pretty fitting obviously when you learn about how Mommy as a monster works and how she's displayed throughout the rest of the chapter. Suddenly the commercial switches to a haunting found footage as it shows a quick scene of a park, someone running through the factory with something chasing her from behind, and finally cutting to Poppy commanding us to wake up. And we listen to the command, just like in Bioshock. We wake up, aye aye Captain, ready to go, and we find ourselves exactly where we left off from chapter 1. However, Poppy is gone from her case, and the entrance we came in from is blocked. So we push ourselves deeper into the factory. The halls had become taller, and now we're starting to see signs of deterioration. Behind Playtime Co.'s bright and colorful walls, hidden were endless industrial labyrinths waiting to be uncovered along with the horrors within this factory. We are no longer in a simple toy factory. We are in something beyond that. Something worse. We then come across another vintage-style office, none other than Elliot Ludwig's office. On the desk, we find a note for another experiment, 814. It recounts an experiment where they tried to revive a rat using a mixture of poppy flowers and some other unknown mixture. The rat didn't come back, but whatever happened, the results were so fascinating that the other scientists had to step forward and basically experiment even further, continuing progress on this rat. Going as far to say that it's steps going forward for what they're looking for. When you pick up the VHS in the office and you start it, we hear a biography about Elliot Ludwig. We learn that he was divorced in 1960, a death in a family that had broke him, and even after that he had returned to continue his work within the factory. The tape ends and we find a way through a vent shaft, which will lead us into another room, and we come across Poppy. At first, Poppy comes across as kind and nervous. She thanks us for freeing her and she wants to help us escape. Poppy joins the party, basically. We follow her towards a large chasm only for a pink hand to drag her into the darkness. We jump right after her and land outside the gates of the game station. This is going to be where this chapter takes place. Another puzzle later and we find ourselves in another long hallway. And this hallway is different than the rest because the ceiling is so damn tall you can't even see anything, it's just darkness. Our hand gets ripped away from us and we are introduced to the character named Mommy Longlegs. She is a spider-like creature with elastic limbs climbing onto walls and taunting us while holding Poppy, who was gagged by her webbing. Her voice is almost motherly, who sounds sweet but in reality is about to show her teeth. If anything, her design is uncanny. She forces us to head into the game station where we'll have to play 3 games to win codes for the train code. The game station is huge, and it only makes you wonder how deep and how large this factory truly is. It is surrounded with empty playgrounds and faded but once bright colors. A place where children would have enjoyed. But what would children be doing this far into the factory? As we venture forward, we can see spider webs surrounding the rooftops. In a way, we are literally a fly diving headfirst into a spider's web. We then require the green hand, which allows us to use electricity to solve puzzles. The first game is musical memory with a toy named Bunzo. Bunzo is a rabbit with symbols that slowly lowers, and as we lose, he'll eat us. The next game requires us to play whack-a-mole, but with a smaller Huggy Wuggies. Once again, if you die, you become food. Something you're going to start noticing as a trend as you continue forward with the game, every time you die, you're likely going to become food. While heading back to the game room, we come across what we believe is Huggy, but then it's revealed by the lighting it's another character, a pink one. She opens the gate for us and walks away. We then find a tape of Marcus.
Mind if I film this?
Oh, not at all, sir.
That's what I like to hear. So, Marcus, what happened?
You see, I was heading home for the day when my ape arse realised that I left me bloody wallet in the cafeteria. So I'm running through the lobby, and that's when I see it. A mop handle lodged under the innovation wing gate.
So what'd you do, Marcus?
Well, I just thought I'd nab the bloody yoke and be on me merry way.
And?
Well, I'm reaching for the thing, and the mop handle jolts on its own. Had me scared stiff. I thought I was the only one there. So I took a peek beneath the gate, and some massive bloody thing was doddering about the bloody hallway.
Thing? You're sure it wasn't a person?
Ain't no person that's 50 feet long with 1,000 legs.
Marcus, you're losing me. Maybe you just saw a bunch of people walking by.
Look, it wasn't people, alright? I haven't a bloody notion what it was, but it wasn't human.
Who have you told about this? Besides me, obviously.
Just you, sir. Obviously.
Okay. I'll have security skim the cameras and take a look.
What? There's a massive bloody monster! Skimming ain't gonna get rid of it!
You're out of line, Marcus. We make toys, not monsters. Now come on, get out of my sight. Actually, grab me a coffee, will you? Actually, never mind. Get out of my sight.
Finally, we made it to our third game. Yet, before we begin, Mommy mentions something here that gives us a bit of context to our character and why we're here. She claims we worked here before, and that we deserve to die. Alone, especially. Because all we know is that we were given a VHS tape, and that apparently, we worked at Playtime Co., helping create the monsters. And given that Mommy straight up says it, it makes me believe that we are involved with these experiments. We go across the maze, keeping ourselves away from the Pugapillar, the monster Jack mentioned earlier in his tape. However, by the end, we learned that the game was rigged from the very start. We see an opportunity to escape, we take it, just in the nick of time, and it makes Mommy mad. She is pissed, claiming that when she finds us, she'll rip us a new one. We then find a transfer request for Mommy, classified as Experiment 1222, subject Marie Payne. It explains that Mommy was hostile towards staff, but warm and protective towards the other experiments, similar to an actual mother. So they brought her to the game station, thinking that it would be perfect for her, allowing her to monitor the children that were present in the game station. And well, I'm sure that went well. Then, while trying to continue our escape, Mommy blocks our path and suggests a new game, hide and seek. She chases us through the factory and almost catches us, but in the right amount of time, we trap her into some sort of grinder. However, in this moment, Mommy didn't fear death. She was afraid of something far worse.
You a dumbass bitch, I got you now! Oh shit!
What have you done?
Deal with it, bitch!
You make me part of you! You can't do this to me!
I'm gonna enjoy this. Oh! You know what? That's what you fucking get. Who the hell are you? You must be the prototype I'm always hearing about.
We then see a large mechanical hand reach from underneath the door and drag Mommy's corpse away into the darkness. Now we have to ask the question, what did Mommy mean by becoming him? Well, we're gonna figure that out later, because now we gotta head right to the next tape. We find another VHS tape, we pick it up, and it explains how the prototype nearly breached containment at one point. This thing has a scary level of intelligence by creating a laser pointer, blinding the camera, and then hiding in the blind spots. The guards open the doors to check, but luckily, the other scientist remotely shut the doors before he could escape. The scientists swore to not allow another experiment to have a large amount of intelligence and a lust at violence to be in one experiment. We then see a note explaining how Huggy Wuggy was deemed the ideal outcome, something with a lack of intelligence but extreme obediency and extreme crave for violence, the perfect security measure. We retrieve Poppy, get the train code, and we move forward with our main objective, escape. However, we find another letter explaining how the company wants to add fake windows, basically to add artificial lighting to the game station. We are so far underground that now no lighting is reaching us, and we're about to head even deeper. As we take the train, Poppy reveals she got other plans. She automatically moves the train lever and makes us go deeper into the factory, explaining she needs us, that we are her angel to fight against the evils down here, and that where we were going would be hell on earth. As the chapter begins, we get another commercial, this time a 2D animated section of the Smiling Critters, a colorful cast of cartoon characters designed for selling toys, similar to the Care Bears. Anyway, you should know how this goes by now. It starts off with a happy upbeat tune, and then it suddenly shifts into the critters unable to sleep. Their doors creep open as Catnap appears, and he provides a solution to their problem. He releases a red gas from his mouth that causes the children to laugh hysterically, and eventually they collapse on the floor, with their bodies lifeless laying across the floor as only Catnap remained. The camera zooms onto him, and then it cuts. The commercial is then interrupted by a news broadcast speaking about how parents have multiple concerns regarding the Catnap toy and how it's being recalled today. They reported their children having effects suffering from nightmares, insomnia, and sleepwalking. This backlash towards the Catnap doll caused Playtime Co. to attempt scrubbing his entire existence from their catalog. They then put Catnap's use to somewhere else. We awaken as we are being dragged by something before being thrown into a trash compactor. As we fall, we catch a glimpse of a monster, a purple cat-like entity with a twisted smile going from ear to ear. This was Catnap. As the trash compactor came to a close, we squeezed through the tight cracks and proceeded forward. We come across another VHS tape from a very concerned mother as she describes the damages the toy did to her daughter.
All right, Miss Harper, please explain the situation. Spare no detail.
Well, like any night, all the children were getting asleep. It was peaceful, quiet. Catnap had the red smoke in the room. Then suddenly, there was this scream. Nightmares happen, I know, but this, dilated pupils and quivering lips. The way her eyes darted around the room, and I swear, her hand in mine, it felt like her blood was boiling beneath her skin. She saw something too, something horrible. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
Miss Harper, we'll provide the very best care we can offer. You have my word. But this is important. Did Marie happen to describe what she saw?
Yes, a monster, she said that it was colorless. Gosh, I could feel the poor little heart pounding. For her, it was right there. And her movements, they were so wild. Arms flailing, legs kicking. I wanted to talk to her, see how she's doing. I really need to hear her voice right now.
That would not be advised, Miss Harper. There are many concerns we must address at this time. But vitals show normal, and we'll continue to monitor. She'll be okay.
No! Well, pardon me if I'm not comforted by that. Just bring my little girl back to me.
We then continue forward and we heard sounds of ringing from a phone. We locate the phone and we answer, only to hear the voice of a child named Ollie. Ollie had access to the old comm systems, despite them being very inactive, and even gave us a battery to help us progress. Ollie then says something that gives us a little bit more context of why we're really here. We are then introduced to Playcare, a place Ollie describes as Catnap's home, his church, and his hunting grounds. We get onto Elliot's Express, which is really reminiscent of Andrew Ryan's introduction to Rapture from the BioShock series. Let me know if I should do a video on that. As we make it deeper into the underground, we heard from Elliot Ludwig about what the world needed: money, understanding, hope, but most of all, a smile. As we go through the red cloud, we enter Poppy Playtime's rapture, Playcare. Ludwig's voice explains that this is a place for children and is a place to be loved, where they needed not fear and can even go to school. It was an orphanage, something that was hinted all the way back in chapter 1 with the poster. As we step into Playcare, we're surrounded by ruin, as a place that was once appeared to be full of life and joy is now silent, like a ghost town. Ollie contacts us and directs us to the power, saying that we need to restore the power of all of Playcare. He sends us a key and we head straight into the production zone. And we can tell from the red gas within the glass chambers, this is where they produce the toxin. We get another key and we head to Home Sweet Home. We entered the orphanage that was filled with red smoke, and as we powered through the corridors, they became endless. Each turn, we were greeted by an old radio speaking of a boy who was found on the property of the late Elliot Ludwig. The boy's body had bones and organs missing, something beyond murder. The next radio we came across spoke of the Playtime Co. and the response towards the accusations. The company called it sick and denied Ludwig's involvement with the child. However, something didn't sit right with the company's response. Suddenly we hear a phone ringing again, something that'll be very common within this chapter. We follow the sound until we came across an old room. We picked up the phone, only to hear from Ollie to run. We turn around and we catch a glimpse of Catnap, stalking us from the doorway, only to be stepping away into the darkness. We follow his silhouette, only to find ourselves in another endless labyrinth of walls. As we searched for an escape, we came across another radio mentioning Ludwig, claiming he had kept strange hours at the factory. There's a safe bet that you can make here that after the death that caused Ludwig to spiral shortly after his divorce, prioritized his work. I believe with everything we know with Ludwig is that it's leading up to the loss of a child, his child. And with these experiments talking about eternal life floating around, who says that this isn't his goal? A broken man with nothing to lose is a man with all to gain. We find another tape and head into another room, featuring a cutout of Huggy Wuggy. But shortly after the tape plays, this happens.
Oh, it's Huggy
Greetings,
again.
employees, and welcome to your first day here in
The door's
Playtime.
closed.
We're certain that in the days to come, you'll find your new family here every bit as loving and supportive as your own.
Really?
Feel free to wander the halls, sit in the mess for lunch, or watch our children play and learn to their little hearts' content. Join the innovationists where the bounds of science are continuously pushed. Or join the counselors of Playcare, whose diligence and care for our children will help shape a brighter future. Just you see. Now, every one of you has your part in that future, so should you come back tomorrow feeling unhappy for where you are or what you've done,
Yeah,
worry
this is
not, for
definitely
your
targeted
supervisor
to
is
us. We've
here
done
and
something
happy to
very
listen.
fucked up.
And should you come back years later, your conscience finally
What
getting the
the
better of you,
hell?
may you descend
The
into
Sonic.exe.
the dark and the dust, finding all that awaits you are
The camera's logging
incomprehensible
onto it.
horrors, each hungry for your return, each eager that they might find you.
Yeah, this is,
Perhaps
no,
they
once again, this is all in my
smile at
head.
you
This is
from a
fucking
shadow.
wild.
Their smiling mouths full of teeth and meat and
And
plastic,
plastic.
watching and waiting patiently for their turn at a warm welcome. Or perhaps they won't allow you such time
What do I
to
feel
figure
like
your
something
place
bad's about
in
to
the
happen?
world you'd left. A world that's theirs now.
Which would make sense after so long.
Welcome.
Oh! Oh, fuck!
We wake up and we're back at the entrance of the Home Sweet Home. This speaks volumes to me, because if the hallucinations are tied to our minds, then it must be personal. And with the context that we've worked here before, we must have some guilt, given that we came back. My theory, we in some way are responsible for the creation of Huggy Wuggy, hence the context here of the tape. A guilt that we simply can't bury. And I also believe this is the reason why we see him in our illusions. Now that we're in the real orphanage, we find a VHS tape of somebody named Brooks, who says that Dr. White has chosen Sam Lee to be adopted. The children cheer for Sam, but in the video he appears to be sad and crying. This is where it starts to click that these kids weren't being adopted. They were lab rats for the experiments. Children signed away to an organization that never intended to keep their promises. And no one will look for foster children. It's just reality. As we leave, we're tracked by a monster, and at first it appears to be Huggy, But in reality, it's not. It's Kissy, the pink one from before. Poppy reveals herself, saving us by explaining to Kissy that we're on their side, we're not a threat. She lets us go, and many questions are left unanswered, but Poppy tries to give us a few as we go up an elevator. The first thing Poppy does is try to clear her name, explaining how she's not the enemy, but they can't just let us leave either. Because what is happening here is much bigger than any of them, and she needs our help to end it. Poppy needs our help. The motive has shifted from escape to vengeance, to the monsters in order to stop the cycle, with the prototype being the mastermind behind it all. We learned that even if we attempted escape all the way back in chapter 1, the prototype was always watching and would have killed us right then and there. We then briefly speak with Ollie and receive another key, for this time, the school. The school was in ruin as classrooms were destroyed, windows were shattered, and blood covered the floor and walls, as if a massacre had happened within the walls. Over the PA system, we are introduced to another character, another monster named Miss Delight. And I can tell you right now, sports fans, she was not delightful at all. We come across a letter explaining the events called the Hour of Joy. After the events of the Hour of Joy, the people within the school were trapped, locked inside for weeks with nowhere to go, nowhere to run, and nothing to eat. Some even crafting weapons for their own safety. With no food, people starved and turned for the worst. Miss Delight then recognized us, as she spoke through the intercom, going as far to remember us, wondering how we even survived. After we turned on the generator, Miss Delight appears and then breaks it again. With her design, you can notice her body resembles a doll, similar to Poppy actually, but her face is cracked, revealing the bone and flesh underneath, confirming the suspicions that you probably had from chapter 1 that Playtime Cole was turning humans into toys. Most of all, children. Her design worked very similar to a weeping angel. You stare at her, she doesn't move, but the moment you turned her back, she was going to kill you. However, those rules changed once we found the exit. She charges, but then we pull the lever in time for the shuttle door to slam down and kill her upon impact. Now, the letters we found within this area actually talk about how the others ended up like outcasting Miss Delight, so she figured that if she stopped moving, they would think she was dead, so she used a weapon to kill those who would come close to her. That way she can survive, by cannibalizing them. We then find another new hand, this time an orange one, designed to fire flares. We were in a cavern-like system now, and while on the catwalks, we could see what could only be described as an amalgamation of toys, turned into some sort of shrine, and Catnap in front of it, praying to it. Whatever this shrine was, Catnap was definitely worshipping it. And when we got a closer look, we can see that it appears to be a centipede-like blob with a human skeleton in the front, almost reminiscent to what we've heard so far about the prototype. We then proceed into the playhouse, one of the most disturbing levels within this chapter so far. Very tight and very claustrophobic. The rooms are padded with decaying walls and faded colors, along with little critters swarming every corner, hungry and ready. This was Catnap's home. These small critters were laughing with joy, but it almost felt like they were mimicking the sounds with sinister intentions. As we ventured deeper, we would come across a larger critter named Dog Day. Well, this was one of the last of the smiling critters. He was one of the original smiling critters, but his body was strapped up, hanging almost like as if it was crucified. His lower half gone, eaten away. However, Dog Day speaks to us, revealing he's a victim down here, just like the rest of them. Catnap follows the will of the prototype, worshipping him like a god, and anybody that doesn't follow his way becomes like Dog Day. Shortly after his message of him to tell us to run, we witness Dog Day get swarmed by a bunch of smiling critters who violently tear themselves straight into Dog Day's flesh and bone, taking over his body. The chase would begin as we ran through the twisting corridors and twisted floorboards, but every turn was a close call as we heard his growls crawling closer and getting closer by the second before we came to a fall. As we found a lift, we would find a way to escape Dog Day and ascend back to the play care. This is where we would get greeted back by a phone call from Ollie. However, within this conversation, he asked if we saw the shrine. It revealed here that this shrine is the prototype, and that Catnap does worship it like a god, like we mentioned before. However, it makes me wonder, how did Ollie know this? Has Ollie been watching us on the camera this entire time? How is he able to follow us every step of the way? I don't know, it's never explained, but hey, let me know your thoughts. We're then sent to the counselor office, where we find another VHS tape labeled Emergencies Alert, and playing it reveals something did happen within this company, something terrible. This moment was called the Hour of Joy. This tape served as a warning to alerting everyone to get out or hide. We would then enter Stella Graver's room, and within, we would find another VHS tape, the Hartman incident. It depicts a couple, the Hartmans, who were interested in adopting a boy named Jeremy. However, Stella takes a look at Jeremy's form, confused and unaware of a new development. Jeremy's form had the word testing on it, which means to the Hartmans they can't bring Jeremy home. They're very upset about this information, and when you listen to Stella's reactions, in the moment it seemed like Stella was very confused and did not know about the situation, about what was going on behind the scenes.
Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Hartman! Come on in. Please, have a seat. How was your ride down?
It was, nothing like we were expecting. Mr. Ludwig's speech was, well, it just confirms for us that you're the orphanage we want to go through.
It's a truly magical place. I felt right at home from the second I entered. You open that door the first time and you just know you're never going to leave. Kind of like finding a home as a child and always thinking of it when you want to feel comforted. I understand you want to give Jeremy that home? Yes, and we would like to adopt. Amazing. You'll be perfect for... Oh. What? Well, it appears there's been some complications.
Complications? What kind of complications?
I don't know. The form says testing.
What does that mean? Tell us, what does that mean?
Miss Graver, we deserve a better explanation than that. Don't you think?
You're in charge of all this. How could you not know?
And why are we only finding out about this now?
I don't. I'm sorry.
We push onward and then something slams into us. Catnap. We're thrown across the room and our mask is ripped off, leaving us exposed to the red mist. Within our hallucinations, we're standing on the road surrounded by trees, and ahead is the Playtime factory. Poppy's voice echoing in our mind, whispering, "Find the flower." As the dream shifted through the clouds of red mist, we are now in the hallway of the Home Sweet Home, surrounded by shadowing figures of children running around. And behind us, in the shadows, we see two pairs of glowing eyes and a dark silhouette. We can assume, safely, that this is Catnap, lurking in the background. Again, we are transported into another classroom full of shadowy children and Miss Delight. We then transfer into the playhouse and the counselor's office, and finally, darkness. Within the shadows, a silhouette appears, Huggy Wuggy, the main antagonist of this whole story of how it began. Suddenly, chaos erupts, and within the red mist, a large hand of the prototype reaches down for us. But then suddenly we're awoken by the sound of a phone ringing. Again, this is always going to be the case in this chapter. However, it's not Ollie that answers. It's Catnap. He basically gives us a warning to just leave, get out, before he has to get his hands dirty. It's pretty much how it goes. We return to Playcare and proceed our way through the night, grabbing the large blue battery and headed straight to the production zone where everything was about to go down. However, as we were about to put the battery in, we're interrupted by Catnap himself, emerging from the shadows, releasing his red mist into the room. Almost instantly, the chase would begin, and as we witnessed, Catnap's body changed as his mouth became long and distorted into a creepy smile, even more than before, his body skinny and pale as he began the hunt. There's actually some design art of Catnap's original form of how this was supposed to go down, and you can see how his body was supposed to show the carvings of children all morphed into one. Maybe this was supposed to be the idea that Catnap was multiple souls trapped in one body, but I don't know if they ever went with that. But the design is really cool. And with the help of Ollie's guidance, we overcharged the glove and we used the power to give Catnap a controlled shock, causing him to burst into flames. And the prototype hand reached down for Catnap. At first though, Catnap seemed frightened, but he then accepted the prototype as he slammed his claws through the Catnap skull and dragged him into the light. Catnap was dead. Now say Catnap 5 times fast. Holy shit, I cannot say that a lot. We then get the gas moved over to Poppy. Finally, she lets us into the hatch room, and she decides now that I get to know the truth. The reason that we came back was because of our coworkers, and we wanted to know what happened and why. Puts in a tape, and we witness the Hour of Joy. This moment was an organized attack from the toys, a total massacre of any humans within the factory, innocent or not. Poppy explains how she remembers hearing their screams and the horrors of that hour. The human bodies dragged from the depths below in order to be consumed so they could stay alive. This company was taking innocent children, and even those that they wanted to be silenced, whether they were within or outside the company, they were being turned into toys, transforming them into experiments for a motive we yet to understand, and we're in chapter 3. Poppy explains that the prototype needs to die for planning this, and that we're her angel to fight this demonic force. As Kissy descends us into the depths of hell, we overhear a battle, a struggle of something attacking her. We try to go back up, but the hatch closes, forcing us into the next chapter of our story. We're greeted with another commercial, and this time it's featuring a toy called Doughy the Dough Man. Right off the bat, we're noticing glitches and we see glimpses of 3 vats on the screen and a hand covered in goo. It then cuts to a homemade vlog of a boy opening his Christmas presents, and for it to be a Doughy toy. In a Willy Wonka-like fashion, the Doughy toy came with a ticket for them to allow him and his family to have a tour of the Playtime factory to see how all the things were made. We actually learned this kid's name from his mother. We're following the child named Jack. While on the tour, Jack leaned too close against the bars and fell straight into the vat below. What's interesting is that in this moment, you can actually hear the tour guy seeming more concerned about shutting the camera off than saving the kid, which is just kind of funny to me because by this point, I'm pretty much expecting that from the Playco factory. We then return back to us. Poppy stays behind and retrieves Kissy, but before she proceeds, she warns us that this place is literal hell. Going as far to call it their cruel kingdom, we travel through the mountains of discarded toys, of fallen creations, and if we're to assume all the toys were human, then this was tens of thousands of humans that either died or were just cast aside into the landfill. We'd come across another letter from a child named Riley. She explains throughout the letter that she doesn't have many hopes of being adopted, but one day she is adopted by Dr. White. She is filled with hope, excitement, believing that she's going to go to a new home, saying that she hasn't been happy ever since the death of her parents. A sweet girl who wanted to be happy. Suddenly, floodlights fill the room, and many Huggies come rushing at us from the mountains. We fight back long enough with the flare gun to scare them away, and then we proceed forward, searching for a way into the prison, only to come across an old train. Ollie would ring again and give us some background to this strange dark place where we found ourselves in, confirming that, once again, this place is hell. This is now hell. We've reached level hell. Out of all the hells they've told us so far, this is level hell. H-E double fucking hockey sticks hell. I know. I've said it thousands of times in this fucking story. You wanna know how many times I say it in the game? Pushing on, we come across another letter from Riley. She expected to be going home with hope and a new family, but instead she woke up inside of an abomination, thrown into a containment cell, explaining that there must have been hundreds if not thousands of others just like her in containment. Apparently she was being starved because the scientists wanted her to eat the bodies. She refused and hid the key where no one else could find it. In one of the nearby cells, we find the key in the stomach of a skeleton of what we can only believe was once Riley. We then find another tape and we hear the voices of 2 guards discussing how the toys would scream and bang their heads against the walls at night, crying for their parents and counselors to come back, to come save them. The guards reminded themselves that whatever they aren't people anymore. This confirms our theory that Playtime was turning children and others they didn't like into experiments and abominations, going so far as to play God, if you will. As we went through the gates, a TV would turn on, and on the screen, a large eye would stare at us. The voice would crackle through the speakers and we would be introduced to the doctor. Apparently, he's been watching us, curious of our capabilities, and he's made it clear that he wasn't going to make it easy going forward. We then find a weekly checkup note regarding experiment 1172, and we learned that 1172 was an emotional, showing signs of anxiety and depression, stating that she rubs her fur on her arm like a coping mechanism, something that we see Kissy Missy doing in Chapter 3 and in Chapter 2. In Chapter 2, there was also a picture of Kissy and a little girl, and if you notice Kissy and Poppy's relationship, I'd say that I can believe that this is them. And we can also note that in this drawing, this was before Poppy became a doll. And given that it was in Ludwig's office, hanging on his wall, I'm going to assume that Poppy is Ludwig's daughter, especially his deceased daughter, hence why he went into madness. After fighting some more critters, we find ourselves another note, and this time it talks about a prisoner profile regarding experiment 1166, aka Yarnaby. I fucking hate Yarnaby. I'm just gonna make that clear. This monster wasted so many hours of my life. Dr. Harley Sawyer, who oversaw the experiment, was very cruel to Yarnaby, ensuring that this creature would only rely on Dr. Sawyer, and had a deeper hatred for anything around it. And as we continued forward, the doctor revealed more. He was surprised to see another human, especially another employee, stating that he watched how we handled the other experiments and was impressed. He then introduced us into Yarnaby, his prize experiment. After a few sections of puzzles, we're set into another chase scene, but thanks to a yellow hand that aids us, we're able to get away from Yarnaby. And we find another note, entry number 4. We learn of one of the guards named Cole. He spoke about the hour of joy and how humans deserve it. We then found another VHS tape that confirms Stella Graber did actually know about the experiments, and she was okay with it. Speaking of a better tomorrow when looking at the grand scheme of things, claiming that Playtime Co. and what they've done was important to humanity. We then drop down a massive ledge, landing in a pen with another monster, this one named the Pianosaurus. As it lunged towards us, something else happens.
What the fuck am I looking at? What the hell even is that? It's the fucking dinosaur. Well, it was a dinosaur, and there it goes. Well, damn, it's gone.
Now that hit the spot. I haven't eaten in weeks.
Hey, big guy, what are you fucking talking about?
Hiya there, pal.
Hey.
Don't worry, I won't eat you.
Are you sure about that? Because you just destroyed that thing.
I'm Doey. I was told to expect you.
Oh, you're the friend that Ollie was working with.
This way. Follow me.
Okay. Well, I know they had fun animating him.
Doey, one of the most likable characters actually within this story so far. However, at the same time, Doey appeared to be terrifying with his brute strength, because he simply devoured that entire dinosaur within seconds. So it was a good thing Doey was on our side. Doey helps us cross obstacles, and we come across the prisoner yards, a place where guards force toys to fight for their entertainment. Another puzzle later, we continued forward, only for an arm to drag me into a hole in the wall. It was Kissy and Poppy, and then we see the prototype lurk by, searching for us. Kissy appears to be badly injured, and you can even see Poppy with her right hand on her chest, both of them shaking in fear. We finally make it into the safe haven. As the heavy doors shut behind us, we found ourselves surrounded by friendly injured toys, seeking sanctuary from the prototype. This is the first thing we noticed, is that the toys did not trust Poppy at all, because she's been away for so long, and led the prototype straight to them. But she had a plan. A reckless, desperate plan. Apparently, some orphans have survived, and the prototype took them deep into his labs in the abyss. Poppy wanted to rescue the orphans and destroy the factory to wipe everything off the map and end the nightmare. Doey, however, then tells us the doctor is actually Dr. Sawyer, who is responsible for creating the abominations we've all faced so far and everything else we've seen within the factory. However, Doey was not at all on Poppy's plan, as he explains that this place had become his home, and the safe haven and the toys within it had become his family and everything he has left. He begged us to search for another way, that destruction was not the only way possible through this, and then we find another VHS tape. The recording is a conversation between Poppy and Ollie. This gives us some insight to Poppy's mind, as she explains she's angry, and that she, and so many others, were turned into abominations. Ollie would empathize and tell her that he'd always be there for her. After that, we head out into the sewers, and we can hear a conversation between Poppy and Doey. They're arguing about her plan. He elaborated further how they searched for her when she vanished, stating that she abandoned them and while they were being hunted. She abandoned them while they were being hunted by the prototype, yet Poppy never explains why she vanished. Gives Doey no clarity. She then walks away to go tend Kissy's wounds, completely ignoring Doey. We find another note regarding subject 1322C, Matthew Howard, a character that shares very similar qualities as Doey. Charisma, great leadership, and deep insecurities. Stella leaves a note going so far as to say that he is a good candidate for 1322C, should his personalities mesh with the other two. So, with this key word, mesh, this is the first hint leading towards the fact that Dowie is more than just Jack from the commercial. There are more people inside of him. There's Jack, Matthew, but who else? We have to look at the number 1322C. Where's B? We can assume Jack is A. The path ahead was unforgiving, given the fact I died so many times to Yarnaby and I spent hours looping around his puzzle. Anyway, we jump across the fire pit only for Yarnaby to attempt the same thing, to get caught by a hook, and his flammable fur ignites his ass and sets him to a blaze, and I could not be happier because fuck Yarnaby. 3 hours of my life gone from a glitchy ass chapter. Just saying. And I actually like his design too. He's got a good design. I just fucking hated his fight. We then come across Dowie, who was in search of parts, only for a pipe to rupture and then release a spew of nitrogen gas, freezing Dowie instantly, leaving him no time to react. When we save him and turn the pipe off, he unthaws, expressing great pain. We then continue forward and we would come across the doctor again. As we fell into the doctor's trap, he revealed Poppy was aware of the Hour of Joy all along, especially before it happened. That Poppy was very manipulative with using her innocence to gain others' trust, along with ours. That Poppy had been constructing a narrative this entire time, pulling the strings like we're the doll. We find a room with a tank filled with the doctor's organs, especially his lungs. We relocate the nitrogen gas into the tank and shatter his lungs, and continue forward with the search for the doctor for the rest of his organs in order to take him out. Throughout most of the process, we had to wear a gas mask for the next section. As we go from rooms that are filled with red mist from the previous chapter, this mist caused subtle hallucinations, allowing us to hear conversations from the void. Sounds of scientists while taking children as they cried grew louder, wanting their families. They were nothing more than cattle for the company's experiments, something we already know. The doctor speaks to us again, saying how Poppy wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice us if it meant getting what she wants or her own survival. The only difference between him and Poppy is that he is striving for something that humanity would actually benefit from, an end goal we have yet to get a clear picture for, by the way. We are now 4 chapters in, and we have no idea what this company is actually trying to do, besides turning them into toys. What is the end goal? We can ideally say, with the theories we have so far, okay, maybe it's immortality. A VHS tape would show that the doctor, while under the directive of Pierre, would actually betray the doctor. Apparently, Mr. Sawyer kept making mistakes, so they wired him into the infrastructure of Playtime Co. They stripped him of his humanity and basically gave him the GLaDOS treat, and turned him into a supercomputer for the scientists can use to need answers. So they couldn't technically get rid of Mr. Sawyer because of his knowledge and how long he's been doing this. He, if anybody, knows how to go forward with this process. However, they didn't like that he was not cooperative, so Pierre said, alright, we're cutting you out, but we're preserving your brain, or making you into a computer. We then come across another organ and we destroy it, continuing to dismantle the doctor until we find the main source. We then find ourselves into another trap where the doctor tries to force a dilemma onto us. Either let an innocent toy die, and we get to live, or we die, allowing the toy to live. Now, on my first playthrough, I said fuck that toy and saved myself. I ain't gonna cap. But I did find out after this, and especially through the chat, that because there is another option where there's like a little gap in the ceiling where you can like pull yourself out and you can avoid killing yourself and the toy. So there was a third way out of that. One elevator ride later and we finally confront the doctor, a massive machine preserving the brain of the doctor. However, before we can act, we're greeted by a robotic monster covered in ghostly white sheets. This was one of the many of Dr. Sawyer's bodies that remained in his domain. What's interesting enough is that Sawyer wasn't really aligned with the Playtime Co. agenda. He appeared to be more focused on his work, continuing his discoveries and his achievements in the world. He only cared about paving the golden path. After completing the puzzle and being swarmed, we finally destroyed the doctor's brain, killing him once and for all. His final words, however, interest me. You saved no one. I can't help but to think, what did he mean by that? With our new ham, the Omni Ham, we are now able to continue forward to the generator. And as we're about to go forward with the decision, Ollie suddenly rings and alerts us that the prototype is just waiting outside the safe haven. Dowie goes to fight him off, giving us some time forward with the plan. We rig up the generator and Bobby gives us instructions to rig the explosives, to blow this place to Kingdom Come. We then find another VHS tape, where we learn about another subject named Kevin Barnes, an orphan. Experiment 1322B. Now, where have we heard that before? This was the third person inside of Doey. So this confirms that there is Jack, Matthew, and Kevin. They are all inside the same body. We learned that Kevin had explosive anger. He was physically above average, and Dr. Sawyer saw him as perfect for the project, even though the scientist recording the tape called Kevin a ticking time bomb. He was extremely emotionally unstable and would turn on others, including the ones he trusted. All it took was the slightest spark to ignite Kevin's fuse. The scientist makes a valid concern, explaining that if Doey had an emotional outburst, you gotta remember, he is 900 pounds of dough that can reshape itself into anything. A horrific display of brute force. Gonna hit you with some of that Doey's lube, unfortunately. We then find another tape, this time of Jack's parents. After Jack fell into the vat, Playtime took this opportunity to experiment on him, and they invited his parents to see their boy. Originally, I assume they told them that they would take care of all of the funding and the responsibilities of the injuries and his medical expenses. However, the reality was, they just took the opportunity to go, let's fucking experiment on this kid, man. In the moment, the mother was thrilled to see her son. However, the father was horrified of the abomination that Playtime had basically just turned his flesh and blood into a monster.
Sir, ma'am, I ask that you remain calm whenever you interact with the patient. He's only been awake a few days now. In many respects, he's still adjusting.
Is that him? Is that my boy?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Oh, George, that's our boy! Jackie!
Why does he look like that? What did you do to him?
Stop it, George. Just stop. That's our son in there, our son!
Dear, look at it. That's not even human.
Let's just talk to him. You'll see. Let's just go in there and talk to him. Can we? Can we talk to him?
Yes, ma'am, you certainly can. Go on in, whenever you're ready.
Jack, I want you to know, I'm so sorry. I've never forgiven myself for what happened. I've played it all back 1,000,000 times in my head, and I know there had to be something I could have done. I could have reached just a little further. I could have noticed a little sooner. I could have. But we have you back now. That's what's important. We can...
Who are you?
Jack? Honey, it's me. It's Mommy.
Mommy?
Yes. Yes, it's Mommy and Daddy. You remember, don't you?
Leave me alone.
Hey, you'll be okay, I promise. Mommy's only here to talk.
No, I don't want to talk. Get out!
Susan, I think we should leave.
Jackie, I'm staying right here. I'm not leaving you, not ever again. Do you hear me?
The gentle voices lie. I know what they do. They lie, and they poke, and they hurt. Susan, get away from me!
Jack? Mommy won't lie to you, Jackie. Mommy won't hurt you. I'd never hurt you.
Hey! Open this door! Oh, God. Susan! Please! Open the door!
It's a horrible situation for Dowie. The scientists were very aware of the unstable emotional outburst Dowie possessed and still let his parents in anyway. They had no intentions of letting them out. We even heard the father trying to leave, but the doors were locked behind him, and in the moment they entered, they were nothing but mice fed to a snake. As we set the charges and rerouted the gas, we would attempt to escape, but Dowie would find me. He was full of concern, searching for the prototype, but then the generator exploded. Dowie rushed back to the safe haven, his voice full of fear and concern, and on the way back, we could hear his screams throughout the air. As we found him alone, surrounded by dead bodies of those he considered his family. He blamed himself, but then the tone quickly shifted as his emotional state quickly started to change from sorrow to rage. In this moment, this is where we could see in real time the personalities clashing with inside Dowie. He blamed us, his rage taking over him. Kevin was now in control. Dowie, in a fit of rage, hit a pillar next to him, causing the roof to collapse on top of him, only for him to emerge as a complete monster. His body long and almost lizard-like, and his mouth with arms reaching out, and faces within staring out at us, one sad, one neutral, and one angry. We then found ourselves in a chase until we collapsed into the mining area, which would become our battleground. Dowie had become our boss. We had to freeze him and use very large saws to cut him up until he was too weak to fight back. Throughout the fight, we wear him down. We can hear him crying how it all hurts and how he doesn't want to be here anymore. Now this boss fight kept glitching for me and became one of the most antagonizing and agonizing fucking areas in my opinion. Enough hits, eventually Dowie would turn into a puddle of goo. We then moved on, only for Dowie to grab us from behind, revealing that he wasn't dead. However, in his fit of rage, he hits a nitrogen tank, causing the body to weaken. As he starts to freeze up and scream, we take the opportunity to pull a grinder on top of him. However, he desperately wanted to live as he tries to fight back, pushing the grinder up with his rage. How he tried to be better, and how he tried to be the person that people needed him to be, but he was never enough. And then, Dowie was crushed.
I tried to be better, to be who they needed. Smart enough, not good enough, not... I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We would find another VHS tape for Dowie, and this was his personal VHS tape after he had been experimented on. He explains how he witnessed so much horror and how it's hard to keep a head straight, yet the others look up to him for leadership. So he has to be their leader. However, before, it was Poppy who was their leader, the one that took charge. Yet, ever since she vanished, everyone's been looking at Dowie as a leader, forcing him into the leadership role. Dowie admits that he wanted to run away just like Poppy did, but he knew he had the power to protect those who didn't. So, with great power came great responsibility, and like a true hero, he protected his people. This VHS tape served as a reminder for Dowie, basically, that people did need him, that he was not a monster. He didn't have to be. We then slide down into a vent where we find Poppy and Kissy hiding within. Poppy frantically attempts to reach out to Ollie on the phone, but then turns to us, angry and upset that we killed Dowie. We had no choice, questioning if I even planted those explosives. Crazy how after everything we've done for this girl, she goes right at our throat for making one mistake. However, we were cut off by the sound of the phone, and when Poppy picked up and pleaded for Ollie to talk back, Ollie read our exact IP address like this was a Call of Duty lobby, doxing us immediately. It is revealed here that Ollie was never Ollie in the first place, but instead the prototype using Ollie's voice. The first thing you notice is Kissy shaking in fear, going into a fetal position, as we hear the many voices, including Catnap, Mommy, the doctor, and some of the VHS tapes. They all become a part of the prototype, just like Mommy said in Chapter 2. This is where everything begins to slide into place. With all the clues we've seen until this point, it is here we can make a good guess that Elliot Ludwig is the prototype, and that Poppy is his daughter. This would explain why he would never kill Poppy compared to the rest of them. This explains why his ending message is, "It's time to come home, Poppy." Poppy in fear runs away, abandoning us, proving the doctor right, by the way, and leaving Kissy behind. Kissy is completely shattered by Poppy's betrayal. And even in the moment, Kissy, the goat, tries to save us but sacrifices her arm in the process after the explosion went off. We fell into the depths below into the cavern. Proceeding forward, we find rows of poppy flowers. We find another tape inside the entry room of the next level. Ironically, Like in the beginning, Leith Pierre spoke about security, and he finally cuts the act and explained to us that intruders will be shot. On site, no questions asked. With the alarm sounding off and our characters look through the door, we only see what at first seems like the silhouette of Kissy, but as it bangs onto the door, it's none other than Huggy Wuggy. However, we see red mist around Huggy Wuggy as the chapter comes to a close. We can assume, at least in my theory, that he wasn't actually there and that this is an illusion. But hey, that's everything for Poppy's Playtime right now regarding the story. So if you have any questions in the comments, let me know. And hey, if you have a favorite character, comment below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and if you want, we can go over the VHS together, but that just depends on the performance of this video. But thank you for watching, have a good day, and I'll talk to y'all later. See ya!